we're going to get started. So I'm going to run through a couple of slides. I'm going to talk pretty fast. I have a lot of things I want to share, but it's just going to be a little bit of a snippet. I always try when I get in front of people and talk at these kind of things, I try to put myself in your shoes, and generally when I think about attending something like this, I think there's probably three main reasons that you come to events like this. And by the way, this is a great event for the second year that they've done it. This is really impressive. But you come here to learn, right? I think you come here to network. And then I think almost most importantly, you come here because it's time that you can get away from the day-to-day grind and challenges of your job and just have some time to think about some of this stuff. Okay? So what I'm hoping that I can do in the short time that we have together is give you some of that time to think about some of the things that I'm talking about and what some of the implications of those things might be for you and your employer and your place of business. Okay? I certainly don't intend to shock anyone with any revolutionary type of ideas or anything. A lot of this stuff is probably things that you're fairly well aware of, but again, it's meant to be some perspective around the things that we do every day, and hopefully you'll find it valuable. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. First of all, real quickly on who we are. So I'm sure everyone has probably heard of Belkin. You most likely everyone has had or has a product that Belkin's made along the way. What you may not know is that Belkin is actually a 35-year-old company that's still run by the guy who started it in his parents' garage in LA. My boss, Chet Pipkin. And over the years, he has grown the organization into something that is global in nature, and we make thousands and thousands of products. He's also built up a real nice portfolio of businesses, some that have been grown organically and some that have been acquired. The Linksys business, as an example, was acquired 5 years ago. That's when I actually joined the company because I was working at Linksys at the time. And we've used that acquisition along with some other things that we were growing internally to form a networking division that is hopefully over time going to become more like the Linksys of years ago, where we really serve the consumer, very small business and small medium business markets across all channels. My job is I was brought in to build strategy around bringing Linksys back into those businesses, or those markets on the commercial side, and lead us into some of those growth areas that the brand has really been absent from for a number of years when it was part of Cisco and was really looked at as only a consumer brand. So when you think about Linksys today, you probably think about like consumer routers and stuff. But at its peak, before the Cisco acquisition, it was over $1 billion enterprise, and it was pretty equally split between service provider, commercial channel business, and the consumer business. And if you think about how much has happened over the last 10 years in the business that we're all in the technology business, there's been a lot that's changed, and I really like the combination of Belkin's customer insight first thinking and the engineering, especially software engineering prowess that's always been at the heart of what Linksys is. And I'm going to share some things about that, but mostly I want to share insights. Okay? As far as who I am, I've been working since 1990, almost all of that in tech and CE, roughly split between the consumer and commercial sides of the business. I've been in a leadership role in my last several jobs, mostly in the networking business, and this is the best job I've ever had. We have so many opportunities and challenges in really building a business back up from the ground. It's been fun. 5 years has flown, and we're just getting started. Hopefully that'll come through a little bit. But I run what's called the commercial side of our business for the Americas, which is one of 3 regions globally that we have as a business. So what I'm going to do today real quickly is run through some trends that we see that are kind of driving our thinking in wired and wireless networking, and then IoT in the cloud. Okay? So that's just a little bit to cover in 20 minutes. And hopefully get to some implications. So from a wired networking side, really what's driving upgrades or additions to infrastructure is really the power needs of continued transitions into IP-based applications and solutions. So the world moving forward is increasingly going to be IP-based. In fact, we're actually building switches in our roadmaps in the future. They're going to feed lighting systems that are IP-based. So you don't think about those kind of things, but the power of having things being transmitted over Cat5 or Cat6 and fed by a powered switch versus running electrical, much more efficient lighting and the ability to manage the lighting in ways that we don't even think about today. I mean, the best we can do now is put a motion sensing or timer switch on a room and it'll light up and when somebody walks in and turn off eventually when people go away or stop moving. But there's so much more sophistication that can be used when you start moving to IP-based applications. And that's just one that is, it's going to take a while for that to become mainstream, but it's a great example. But voice systems obviously have moved to IP. AV is increasingly moving to IP. Even Wi-Fi, as Wi-Fi systems become more and more powerful, their power consumption needs go up. And so you have to think about what's powering all this stuff from the switch. And power budgets on switches are limited. So what you'll see happening over the course of the next 6 to 12 months is more and more switches coming out with more ability to power. So it isn't about the data transmission speeds necessarily, it's the fact that you're running out of the ability to power all these things that are now IP-based. And the cost savings and efficiency of running CAT cable instead of electrical wiring is significant in a facility. You also don't have to pull permits or pay electricians, and so there's a lot of advantages to that other than just the performance advantages of a IP-based system. The other big one is the cloud, of course, and what you'll see from vendors like us is we're moving everything to the cloud. We have an installed base today globally of about 50 million users who are already using cloud that's been developed by Linksys or Belkin with its Wemo platform. We've got a lot of experience in the cloud, and we're taking a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that experience and driving it more and more into commercial solutions. So starting in August and rolling into into next year and beyond, every product in our lineup on the commercial side of our business, from access points to routers and switches, will all move to the cloud. And what that means for you is that you'll be able to do everything that you do today in a browser-based, on-prem, computer-based application, remotely and multi-site and in the palm of your hand if you want. And so there's a lot of power there in managing and monitoring and measuring things associated with your network and so on. And so you'll see and hear a lot more of that from us over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. We build products for small and medium business. All right, we are not an enterprise vendor. We know who we are and we try to be great at it. Small and medium business is a very broad term. And so there's a lot of different flavors and definitions of it. But the simplest way to think about it is the complexity of your IT needs, the physical size of the space that you need to cover when it comes to Wi-Fi, security requirements, and then the number of locations. And so our products can cover a lot of business applications within some of those parameters. It's only at the real enterprise level of networking where we just don't offer the features. But we have a value proposition because we're affordable. And so it's a really good option and something that you should consider as you're looking at your future infrastructure needs. Any questions on wired? It's pretty straightforward. It's the water heater in the basement, basically, that replace it till it breaks. Onto Wi-Fi. So obviously Wi-Fi is ubiquitous. Even as we look at things like 5G starting to emerge over the next several years, the pipe coming in may evolve, but Wi-Fi will continue to be the mainstream way to distribute wireless in any kind of location. It's a standard. And so really it's a matter of deciding what level of performance and coverage that you need or want in your facility, and then what sort of tools that you want to have accompany that coverage. What's really been driving it over the last several years, of course, is the proliferation of devices that are connecting to Wi-Fi, especially devices that are not stationary. And so you have a need to be able to keep things that are moving around connected and do it seamlessly so there's no user interaction necessary. The other thing is the rapid move to high bandwidth streaming applications. And we all think as individuals about Netflix and online gaming and that sort of thing, but there's a lot of bandwidth intensive applications that drive business needs as well. Some of it is video streaming. It might be YouTube videos that you're publishing as a marketing tool, or it might be a video conference that's being done, or it might be just transferring large data files onto a cloud-based storage, or SharePoint files, or Skype collaboration things that are going on. There's a lot more bandwidth-intensive business applications than you think of that really drive the need to have higher performance Wi-Fi. And I'll get into some of the implications of this at the end, but there is a transition that's still going on. You'd probably be shocked to learn how many people are still on old Wi-Fi formats out there, especially in the small business sector. And it's really a disservice because not only are you dragging the network down because Wi-Fi networking is a lowest common denominator kind of a technology, but in many cases with mobile devices, you're also draining batteries more rapidly. If you've ever been in a roaming situation outside of LTE coverage and watch that battery meter go down as that thing continues to try to connect to something, a similar thing is happening with older technology Wi-Fi. If the client device has a higher capacity wireless chipset than the access point or router that's feeding it, it's going to work really hard. Then couple of the other emerging technologies is around, especially in the small business sector, is around mesh. So I'm sure most of us have at least heard of mesh networking. We've actually taken a real strong position on that in our premium consumer and small business area because we think for simple IT environments where a location is relatively small in size, there isn't a lot of complex IT needs, you can get away with a distributed node kind of a networking infrastructure versus putting access points up. And so there's an opportunity in smaller locations to use mesh, and then you get into larger locations, you can obviously continue to use access points. We've built a really cool mesh system called Velop, and there's like I said, the guy or person that wins a raffle today in this meeting will be getting one of those, but you can check them out down on our table too. Obviously, security is a significant concern and a growing concern. We write all our own software, so that's pretty unique in the small and medium business networking space. Most people rely a lot on ODM engineering, which is offshore. A lot of cloud is actually done offshore as well. And we don't do that. We have American engineering departments that write and build all our software, and we host everything in the U.S. And the importance of that when it comes to security is that we can't prevent bad guys from doing bad things, unfortunately. It's no different than off IT. I mean, somebody's going to break into a car, bust through somebody's window, steal from a grocery store. I mean, this kind of stuff is going to continue to happen. And our responsibility is to build the strongest security into our products that we can with the known threats, and then react really quickly and comprehensively when something new comes up, and then get it proliferated out to the installed base. So one thing that we do differently than most of our competition is that we do over-the-air firmware updates overnight every time a change is made, and so it's done automatically. And so nobody has to go through any rigmarole, downloading files or installing things on their own. It just happens because we control it. And that's really important when a bug has to be fixed related to security especially. We're also building more security into our products over time, and you can learn more about that if you have any more interest. I don't have time to get into that too much, but it's something that we see as paramount. A couple other things around the small and medium business sector is that personalization and other marketing applications are increasingly going to become available over a Wi-Fi system. And so you'll, as a small business owner, you have the ability to kind of compete with the big guys and provide a lot of things that customers typically or increasingly are expecting. And so that's something that you'll see coming out more and more from us and others. And then really, for the first time, products and solutions being purpose-built for that sector, where a lot of times what happens in the middle-sized businesses or private institutions is that there's either consumer products that are sort of forced up or enterprise solutions that are forced down, and neither really fits a lot of our needs as well as they should. That's something that we're taking really seriously, and so what you'll see more and more from us are things that we've really built with that middle market in mind versus trying to retrofit something that really wasn't intended for. It's either too expensive or it really doesn't have the features that you want. So I would be very aware of that and look for things that are really built for you and not pay any more than you have to. From an IoT standpoint, I'm going to be really brief because this is like trying to boil the ocean. What you have in front of you in the green box is a plug-in product that gets you into our cloud and allows you to control an electrical fixture like a lamp or a coffee maker or anything else that you plug into an outlet from your smartphone, or use voice skill with Alexa, the Google Home Assistant, or the Apple HomeKit. And you can pair them together and set up all kinds of rules and give it a shot. So what's really driving this from the consumer and small business side of things are three main applications: lighting, home or office environment controls like Nest, Honeywell thermostats, that kind of stuff, and security, locks, cameras, that kind of stuff. Three killer apps. And we look at IoT from that market segment perspective as make it easy, approachable, affordable, let people try it, and as they try it and start to become used to it, they'll figure out other ways to sort of build it out. And so a lot of what we do is focus on partnerships. We have the strongest, tightest partnerships with Apple, Google, and Amazon in the industry. That's why all our products work with all three and work really well. We continue to look at market-making partners like that as paramount to the success of our business. We're rarely a product that is the main solution sold. We're usually sort of connecting something else that's replaced or installed or upgraded or whatever. And so we're important, but we know our place. And so we think it's important to stay really close to people that are driving the technology, and in the IoT space, at least on the small business and residential side of things, it's those three companies for sure. But you'll see more and more of that come out from us, and more commercial-oriented applications come out utilizing our experience in IoT and the cloud, similar to this kind of thing, mostly focused around turning things on and off, helping you manage energy usage, cost savings around energy usage, and that sort of thing. We actually spun a part of our company off about a year ago and started a new company with a joint venture with a company out of Sweden called Uponor. And it's around a sensor that we developed that plugs into a water system. And so water actually flows through it. It's Wi-Fi enabled, it's powered, and once it's set up, it can actually identify every single thing that's in the water system. So in your home, as an example, you have a water main come in, it's a pressurized system, and every time you turn a valve, whether it's a sink faucet or a flush a toilet or whatever, you're opening up a valve and water is flowing because it's pressurized, okay? Every single thing in your home has a unique signature. The water pressure variances as those things are turned on and off, and the vibration in the piping is unique to every single one of those, and our sensor can identify that with enough fidelity that it could know that you're a sink and you're a shower and you're the water heater and you're the dishwasher, and once it does that, then it can measure everything. And that has implications around water usage. It can detect leaks before they become catastrophic, and in the case of our higher end product, which is attached at the main, you can actually shut the water off even if you're not there. Or the system will shut it off if it sends you a text message and says, you've got a catastrophic water leak, I'm shutting this thing off in the next 30 seconds unless you say no, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of implications to this around insurance, people with second homes or property management and that sort of thing. So it's just a really good example of how we're taking a lot of experience that we had in one area and applying it to a commercial application that has massive implications. We also have in research a similar sensor and system for electricity and for natural gas. And so, these are good examples of where, IoT is kind of headed, at least from our perspective, with the things that we're relatively good at. Okay? On the cloud perspective, cloud has really been driven at the enterprise level. And as we move down into the mid-market, a lot of what's going on in cloud today, and you're probably, some examples in the audience, are around, moving to Office 365 and CRM solutions and collaboration and storage and some of those things that make, a ton of sense initially. But there's also a lot of other things, like in our arena, where you're not going to necessarily purchase that, or you're not necessarily going to migrate from what you've been doing today onto the cloud, but we are. Okay, so when you think about a networking solution, like I mentioned earlier, whether it's an access point or a switch or a router, we're taking advantage of always on, always connected internet, and we're moving applications to the cloud. Primarily for IT administration, for managed service providers who are doing that for you as a, for a fee. And like I mentioned earlier, it's with purpose-built software and hardware for that mid-market, okay? And as an example, in August, when we roll this thing out, you'll be able to buy access points from us that are the same cost as the access points we have today. You'll get a 5-year warranty, and the cloud application will be included in the purchase price. So you're not paying any subscription fees, you're not paying any annual fee. It's purpose-built for small business, including the price points. We think that's relevant, and we think it's overdue, frankly. So, and then when the 5 years of warranty expires, 5 years is an eternity in the networking and Wi-Fi space. So if you're going to hang on to that product, even though it's a dusty old dinosaur by then, you will have the opportunity to buy an extended warranty, and that extended warranty would come with the cloud included, or you can trade in and move on to whatever the next greatest thing is, which is what most people will do. Okay? So I tried to summarize some of the implications as I talked, but really powered IP solutions are driving upgrades in the wired space. The ubiquity of Wi-Fi and more mobile devices and higher bandwidth applications require that systems be upgraded to at least the AC Wave 2 technology that's out there today, and AX is coming. The next generation of 802.11 wireless is AX, and it'll be here, starting within the next 6 to 9 months, and it'll transition into that with faster and faster speeds and more coverage. And then you've got things like mesh that are making things even more usable and more seamless for end users, where software really drives the management, and users just are always connected with a super fast connection. So I would really encourage you, if you are not onto wireless AC2, you really should be. And you should have an eye on AX over the next 18 to 24 months, because it's just better performing. From an IoT standpoint, we're focused on controls, lighting controls, environmental controls, and security. But there's a whole host of other applications that continue to be driven by IoT, wearables in the public sector. Buses are getting outfitted with Wi-Fi with LTE feeding them. There's enormous opportunities. Anything can be powered and connected to Wi-Fi, virtually. And so there, obviously there's a lot of implications there. And from a cloud standpoint, the way we look at it is we want to make sure that we're keeping up with the main applications that are driving your businesses or your IT needs, and give you simpler and simpler tools to use at affordable prices. And sort of that's sort of our view of things. I do have, and I think these presentations are being made available at the end, but I did give you a little bit of an update on what's the latest from us that sort of fits each of those categories. So if you're interested in any Linksys or Belkin or Wemo solution or wanting more information, there's a way for you to work with your Spacebound rep who we work with directly and request that information. Or I did leave you a business card of mine too, and I welcome any direct contact also. Any questions or comments?
What are you doing as offering in student identification? You know, being able to rapidly identify your students coming into your building?
So the question was, what are you doing to help in aiding in student identification, like technologies to help in assisting student identification? So we don't have anything specifically that we've done with that, but what I can offer is the thinking around those kind of things is really tied to whether or not your audience is carrying around a mobile device. Okay, so in the commercial side of things, most everyone brings their phone with them everywhere, and most kids do too. At least at certain ages, and those ages are getting lower and lower. We have the ability to build that into our access point or router solutions, where we identify a unique MAC address that's associated with each one of the phones, and have that paired with the student's name. So if everyone has a phone, we could do that over the network and know that they were quote checked in when they joined the.
Okay, so even when they come in rapidly through your doors of your school,
if they're connecting to your Wi-Fi, which every kid I've ever met does, because they're on a data plan or whatever. So yeah, that's a possibility. Is that something predominantly you are education?
Yes.
School-based? Yeah. Is that a common interest? Is looking at ways to do better job of it?
Tighten up security.
Yeah. Right.
As rapidly as possible.
That's a relatively easy thing for us to build.